Hey everybody, John here from Hall of Justice Comics in Parker, Colorado. Dom's with me as always by my side here, my sidekick. Side chick? I don't know.
Side chick.
Whatever. Side chick, Dom.
Sancho.
Sancho. We're here to do a little walkthrough for you. This is something that we get asked almost weekly questions about. So we are a CGC authorized dealer. CGC is a company that's based out of Sarasota, Florida, that is an independent third-party company that will grade your comics for you. And so we are an independent dealer for them, meaning that we can send books off for you to get graded by them. And then they come back in these nifty little slabs that we'd like to call them here at the shop. So we just wanted to walk you through the process of how it works to submit comics to CGC through a dealer like ourselves. Everybody has access to CGC. You guys can be members of CGC yourselves. You've got to pay a membership fee, which allows you to submit so many books a year, and they give you a discount off of, I think, their retail prices in doing so. So your two options are either to do that, is to purchase a membership and send the books out yourself, or to find an authorized dealer like us that can handle all of that for you. CGC is something that it's a very cool aspect of comic book collecting if you are looking at investments, if you're looking at the ultimate form of preservation, but there's a lot that goes into it. And this is something that I have to break everybody's heart when they come in and they bring in a box of, Spider-Man comics from the 90s and they want to get it all graded. There's a break-even point. If you're doing this as an investment purpose for yourself, you don't want to spend a bunch of money on grading a comic book that you would in turn have to sell for the price of the book and the price that you spent on the grading, and then hope to get some kind of a profit out of it. So you want to be kind of picky about the things that you're wanting to get slabbed. Having said that, you can slab comics for any number of reasons. It can be completely personal. If you have a comic that's the first thing that you ever bought as a kid, and you just want to preserve it in the best way possible, I would gladly send that off for you. If you've got something that is we talked about this on our protection show. These comic books are constantly in a state of deterioration. They are every single day, decomposing, for lack of a better word, and by preserving them in a CGC slab, you're doing the best thing that you can do to preserve that book. So like I said, there's a number of different ways that people send things off to get graded. If you walk in the store with a bunch of books that you want to send off, we're going to ask you questions. We're going to try to help you figure out if it's something that you absolutely want to do, because there's a cost associated with it. You want to hit me with the close-up camera? This is the pricing schedule for CGC Comics right now. And you can see there are different tiers. There's a lot of stuff on this page right here. We're really only focusing on this kind of top section right here. We're not worrying too much about magazines or reholders. There are 6 different grading tiers to get a comic book, sent off for CGC. You've got modern, value, economy, standard, express, and walkthrough. And so modern, 90% of the stuff that we send out, I think it falls into this modern category. CGC dictates that a modern comic is anything published from 1975 to now. It has to have a value of less than $200. So books like New Mutants 98, which technically fall into that date range, immediately get bumped into the next pricing tier, because New Mutants 98 is not a $200 book. Amazing Spider-Man 300, another book that it kind of bumps itself up to the next tier because it's more than a $200 book. So this is what we kind of navigate with you when you bring your books in to talk about getting them graded. Each one of these different pricing tiers obviously has a cost associated with it, and there's also a turnaround time that's associated with each one of those tiers. Modern comic books should be right around 20 business days for turnaround time, and that means from when CGC receives the book, not counting weekends or holidays, 20 business days later, the book will ship out from them back to us. That changes periodically throughout the year, because as CGC travels around to shows. They're taking submissions at shows as well, and that can increase the amount of backlog that they've got to get to before they grade books. So if you're sending stuff off through us, you can always message us and say, hey, what's the turnaround time on any one of these pricing tiers, with the exception of Express and Walkthrough, and we can look it up on the CGC website and get you an exact, what their current turnaround time frame looks like. So modern, 1975 to now, $200 or less. Value is the next pricing schedule. There is no date restriction for value, so they can go as far back to Golden Age or Platinum Age or Atomic Age stuff. But again, the value for a comic submitted in the value tier has to be $200 or less. 50 business day turnaround, that is the longest turnaround time out of any of the different pricing tier submissions. But again, that fluctuates depending on where CGC is at with stuff. Economy is the next step up from value. Again, economy has no date restriction, so current to Golden Age are all open to be graded. The only restriction for economy is the book has to be valued at $400 or less. And so when we're talking about the declared value of these books, a lot of people say, well, where do you come up with that number? We look at a lot of different options. We look at eBay sales. We look at the Overstreet price guide. Those two things generally give us the value of the book. We ask that you do that research for yourself before you come in, so that you can just say, hey, I have this book, it's $400. Okay, well, that's going to go in economy because that's the pricing tier. It saves us time. We don't make a lot of money on grading comics. We just offer it as a service, and it's a kind of free advertisement for us as well. Then we jump up to standard. Standard, it has to be valued at $1,000 or less, but standard holds strict to a 15 business day turnaround time, which is really cool. $65 to grade a book at the standard pricing tier. Express is valued at $3,000 or less with a 5 business day turnaround time, and that's going to cost $100. And then the tippy top of the CGC pricing schedule is Walkthrough. Walkthrough, there is an unlimited value on the comics that you're submitting at Walkthrough. However, CGC charges 3% of the declared value of the book. So if you have an Amazing Fantasy 15, if you have a Fantastic Four #1, it's going to have to go into this pricing tier. There's a 1 business day turnaround time. So as soon as CGC gets the book in Florida, they open that package. They mark it as a walkthrough, and then the way that the grading process works, there are 3 different people that go through the book from front to back, and they're marking off defects as they're looking at the book. Each one of those graders gives the book a number. They take the average of those 3 grades, and that's ultimately what you end up with on your label. So they do that, the walkthrough, they do that the same day that they get the book, 1 business day turnaround time. Minimum charge for walkthrough is $150. Maximum charge is $5,000. But again, it's 3% of whatever the declared value of the book is. That's what CGC is going to charge for grading. Okay, so you've got what it costs to grade a book. You've got the breakdown of all of the different pricing tiers. The other thing that is not on this list whatsoever, there's a $5 invoice fee that CGC charges for each one of these tiers. So if you bring me 6 books, and each book, you've got a modern, you've got a value, an economy, a standard, express, and a walkthrough, you're going to pay $5 for the invoice fee for each one of those books. Make sense? On top of the grading cost. Conversely, if you bring me 6 comic books and they are all modern comics, meaning they're 1975 to now with a value of $200 or less, you're going to pay one $5 invoice fee for all 6 of those books, but you are going to pay the $20 for each of those 6 books. The invoice fee is just something that they do. It's an accounting thing that they charge us and we pass along to you. You can basically put up to 25 comics on a single invoice. So you can send, a bunch of books out at the same time and only pay that $5 invoice fee once. The other cost that is associated with grading is the shipping cost. And the way that we do shipping charges here at the store, when you walk in with your books that you'd like to get graded, you're going to pay for the pricing tier and the invoice fee up front when you drop the books off. We generally take submissions throughout an entire month. At the end of that month, we'll package all of those submissions up and ship them out in one bulk box to CGC. They receive the box, they split all the books up into the proper pricing tiers, grade the books, and then send them back to us. Because we can't estimate how many people are going to submit books throughout the month, we charge you the actual shipping costs once the comics come back graded. So when the comics come back to us from CGC in their holders, you'll have a shipping to fee and a shipping from CGC fee, but we break that down between everybody who's sending books out. So that way you're only paying for the actual cost of shipping the comics back and forth. There are options, as with anything. You have options to fast track your comics if they fall into modern, value, or economy price tiers. Fast tracking the books pays, it's a cost of an additional $10 per book, but it cuts the turnaround time in half. So if modern is 20 business days, in theory, that's what it's supposed to be, it'll take 10 days to grade your book for the additional $10. So you can kind of pick and choose and customize your CGC submission, and we'll help you, walk through all of that. Again, you bring the books in, we go through them with you, we determine the pricing tier that they're going to go in, you tell us what the declared value of the book is, we charge you up front for the grading cost and the invoice fee, we accumulate the submissions throughout the entire month, and then at the end of the month, we ship those all out. Once the books come back, then you pay the actual costs for grading. I've got a couple of examples of books up front so that you know what we're talking about when we're talking about slabs. So this is a Fantastic Four number 48. It is a blue label. There are four different colors of labels. Blue is the CGC universal grade, which means it's a comic book. There's nothing that has been added to it or taken from it. We'll talk about those other things a little bit later. You want to get a blue label. Blue label is ideal. That means that, like I said, there's no restoration, there's no conservation, there is nothing that is missing from the book. There's no coupons cut out, there's no pages missing, all that stuff. Blue label is what we want to shoot for. Then at the top left corner of the slab, you have the grade, and again, the grade is given by 3 different people that go through the book from front to back and average that score and give you a number. The grades go from NG, which means no grade. If you had let's say you just had the page that was the first appearance of Spider-Man in Amazing Fantasy 15, you could send it to CGC, they would grade it, they would put it in a slab and all this stuff just like this, but it would say NG here, which stands for no grade. 0.5 is the lowest, and 10.0 is obviously the highest. 10s are very, very rare. If books are incomplete, they'll list the things on the label. But you've got the label here at the top. Universal grade, Fantastic Four 48, Marvel Comics, March of 1966. There is a barcode right here in the middle of the book. That barcode is, it's like the fingerprint for this comic. That barcode, you can actually go to CGC's website and go to their, I think it's graded comic lookup. I can't remember what it's called. You can type that barcode in and it will give you the information about this book, that it's an FF48, it's a 2.0. Right here below the 2.0 grade, it says off-white to white pages, because not only are they looking at the cover for flaws and things like that, they're looking at the page color to make sure that you'll get either white, off-white tan, brittle, all those different adjectives to describe the page. You'll have right here by the grade, it says Stan Lee story, Jack Kirby and Joe Sinnott cover and art. So you get a little bit of information about the book. Over here on the other side of the barcode, if there's anything that's of importance about this particular comic, they will list it right here. First appearance of Silver Surfer and Galactus, cameo on the last page, Inhumans and Watcher appearance. And then you have the little CGC hologram right there. Back of the book, it's completely transparent, so you can see the back cover of the book. A little more information here at the top. Again, it's got the serial number right there and off-white to white pages. The books are sealed in an inner well. The inner well is composed of mylar. So again, we just talked about our conservation preservation episode that published a little bit ago. Mylar is the best at preservation. It is archival grade material. The book sits in this little, it's called a well. The book sits in there. They put another piece of mylar over the top of it and heat seal the book inside that mylar.
With paper in the pages, don't
They
they?
do. A lot of times they'll put micro chamber paper in the front inside cover and in the back inside cover. Sometimes it'll be right in the middle of the book. The micro chamber paper is in there to absorb the gases that the comic book is going to release, again, as it's slowly deteriorating. But it's in there, man. I mean, once it's sealed inside the inner well, and then the well is sealed inside the slab, you can't ever read this book again unless you physically break it out of the holder. And that's what this is. This is, I had a customer that wanted to have a book cracked and pressed and reholdered. So we broke it out of the slab. It's pretty easy to do. We'll do another video on cracking a slab a little bit later. But you've got to be very careful and take a razor blade to cut the book out of the mylar well inside if you're wanting to get it out. But it's a whole process. It is secure in there. If you were to drop this slab, it would and crack the holder. We can send in the book for reholder. That was one of the services that we didn't talk about. There's obviously magazine grading and then reholdering. If you had a slab that was cracked, if you dropped it, if the book is fine, but you just need it to be reinserted into the holder, CGC will do that for a flat $15 as long as the book is valued less than $50,000. So more options there. But like I said, you're shooting for Blue Label. Blue Label is their universal grade. There is a purple label, which means that the book has been restored. And generally on a purple label book, it will have a listing of like C1, A1, or P1. And then there'll be 1 through 3 that they'll choose from. And that's the different levels of amateur or professional restoration that the book has gone through. It can be something as simple as like a color touch-up on the cover with a marker, or as professional as somebody who added, who went through and like this guy on the spine here, they can actually use paper to seal the tears and all that sort of stuff. But that will all be laid out on the label if it has been restored. And that's the purple label. It's not ideal, but on older books, on books that are tough to find, sometimes that's kind of what you have to settle for. One of the other labels that you can get is a yellow Signature Series label. That's what this guy is right here. The Signature Series, CGC is very specific about the way they handle signatures. CGC has to have a witness present to see the signature take place. That witness then signs off on paperwork that says, I saw Jorge Corona sign this undiscovered country #1. And that paperwork follows the book until it's ultimately graded and back to the person that's sending the book in. So they're very, very, very particular about graded comics and signatures. If you had a book that was signed but not witnessed and sent it in, it would get a green label, which means that the book is qualified. That's one of the other colors of labels that we haven't talked about yet. The qualification label, it can work if there's a signature on the cover that CGC didn't witness. Up here in the information, it'll just say, somebody signed the cover with marker. If the book is missing a coupon, if you've got a Hulk 181 that's missing the Marvel value stamp, it will come back with a qualified label, meaning that if it weren't for this one flaw, the book would be a 7.0. But technically, because it's missing that coupon, the book is considered incomplete. So you can actually choose, as somebody who's sending a book off to get graded, if the book is going to come back as qualified, we can choose whether you get the green label for qualified, which will mean that it's a higher number, or a blue label with a lower grade, like a 0.5, because it's incomplete, with the missing stamp. So, there's arguments to be made to do either one of them, but that's a bridge that we can cross if that ever happens. But qualified labels are generally missing something. or they have some major flaw that if that flaw wasn't present, the book would be this grade. That's what the qualification is. So you've got blue label for universal, purple label for restored, green label which is qualified, and then yellow label which is signature series. And you can actually have a variety of yellow and purple and green, or purple and green. You can have a book that is restored that has a signature on it that makes it qualified because it wasn't witnessed. So you'll get a green label with a purple banner at the top that means it's qualified and restored. There's a whole mess of other label configurations that you can get from a book that's graded from CGC. But those are the 4 basic options. You've got blue label, purple label, green label, and yellow. Yellow you can only get for signature series, and again it says everything. We've got a 9.8, white pages, info about the book, Scott Snyder, Charles Soule story, Giuseppe Camicoli art, Jorge Corona cover, Undiscovered Country #1, image November 19th, signed by Jorge on October 26th of 2019, and then over here it says Hall of Justice Comics and Collectibles store exclusive. Same thing goes with this guy. You got the book is completely see-through on the back cover, more information on the top back label, but that's how it works. There's a different pricing schedule for signature series stuff, but like, again, we have to have an event with somebody here and witnesses on hand to be able to send books off to get graded, like this one for the yellow label. So that answered questions. Hopefully that went through everything. Didn't muddy the waters at all, maybe. But if you're interested, come talk to us. You can reach out via Facebook or email address, or you can post here on YouTube, hojcomics@gmail.com. Our phone number is 303-484-9103. We're here Monday through Saturday, 11 to 7, Sunday from 11 to 5. We take graded comic submissions Thursday before 4, and then all day Friday and Saturday. Although we're getting more staff trained on how to accept CGC submissions, those are the ideal days for you to bring books in to get graded. So hopefully that helps shed a little bit of light on the process. If you still have questions, reach out to us. We'll be glad to help. Okay?
All right.
Thanks, guys. I'm John.
I'm Tom.
Thanks for watching. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and ring that bell so that you get notifications when we post new videos. Yay! And if you have suggestions for videos that you would like to see, drop us a comment down below and let us know what you'd like to see more about. Because it's, besides reading comics, it's pretty straightforward.
Right.
But anything we can do to help, we will do that to help.
Sounds good.
Cool. See you guys. Have a great one.